How's it going, guys? It's kind of cloudy and breezy out here today. We got 43 degrees Fahrenheit and 8 degrees Celsius, and charging at 2.7 amps. Got the Malibu back together, transmission in it. The new headlights in there, and new rotors. I don't know if you can see the shiny new rotor in there, and there's new shocks on the back. Not much to see there, but took this thing out for a couple days driving it around, and let me go back a little bit. When I first bought the thing, I had to drive it about 40 minutes from where I bought it, and it wouldn't downshift and seemed low on power. And I was kind of wondering if there was something wrong with the converter, so I stopped at a light, and it revved up real nice, and it also starts up really quick. It just didn't seem like there was anything wrong with the converter. And but whenever I go to climb up a hill, it wouldn't downshift. You'd have to, once you got to a certain point with the gas pedal, then it would just, the transmission would let loose and go to the moon. After I put it back together, I can drive it. It's kind of, it's kind of like driving that thing. It has a 4-cylinder in it. It weighs 4,100 pounds. And it doesn't get in a hurry, And this thing here, kind of driving about the same, but I did own one of these before. It was an 04, and I just remember it being peppier. Well, anyway, whenever I first brought it home, put the code reader on it, I had a misfire code, changed the plugs. That hasn't came back. First solenoid code, and see, I got the gas tank out of it right now. First solenoid bolts up right there. Tested the old one. There is no resistance at all on the terminals. I bought a new one of those, and the gas gauge didn't work. And the codes that I had, another code was, it says fuel something like abbreviated RES, and the gas gauge didn't work. So I was just assuming that codes must be for the gas gauge. I mean, it's amazing how many codes you can get on a car that has nothing to do with the engine itself, transmission and other things. So I just kind of shrugged it off and really didn't look it up. But here what it was saying, if I go to live data on my meter, it's saying that the throttle was at 25% at an idle. Throttle is open. This is a fly-by-wire, so it doesn't have an idle control valve. It just actually opens the throttle up to maintain an idle. Well, after I seen that, I was getting good O2 sensor readings too on the live data, so that didn't make much sense for a clogged up converter. On the 04, the glass pack that was in the middle, it rotted in the inside and the outside, and it was it started getting loud, so I decided I was going to cut it out and put a straight pipe in it. And it was also collapsed all on the inside of it too, but it was leaking out the side, so the engine was able to exhaust. Well, anyway, so after I seen the code and all that, I went home and ordered new catalytic converter. This pipe right here, the bolts that was in there was in such bad shape, there was no way of getting them out without cutting them. And then this one bolt right here you couldn't even get to try to cut it unless maybe you had a torch. So I ended up buying this thing. This little flex section right here was getting to be in pretty bad shape. well, it didn't have a hole in it. It was just getting to the point to where it was probably going to fail at any time. So when I was taking the exhaust, I wanted to take the gas tank off of it. And in order to do that, you need to pretty much remove the rear section of the exhaust system. So I cut it off right here and started the car up, and it was still quiet. You know, the glass pack is going to be loud, and it was quiet as can be. And I cut it off right here, and it was now loud. The catalytic converter was fine, and with inspection of that glass pack, it was completely collapsed, fiberglass insulation falling down in. I do kind of wonder if fiberglass insulation made it into the muffler, so that remains to be seen. But one concern I do have with this catalytic converter, it's an aftermarket off of eBay. It's kind of small. You know, I'm kind of wondering if I'm actually going to end up with an engine light, like catalyst below threshold, because this thing, you can see here, this space, that's how big this thing's supposed to be around. You know, so, and then it's pretty far down in there too. I mean, this, you know, that catalyst must be about that long. You know, so maybe it's just enough to keep the engine light out, but it's probably not actually doing a whole heck of a lot as far as burning all of the hydrocarbons off. But so I'm kind of worried about that. They did send a little sheet with it. You know, if you had the catalyst below threshold code, don't bolt this up, because you know that it's going to be, you know, that you could ruin this one. And it's like, yeah, you're just giving me this sheet so that whenever I get the code for this one, you know, you're going to blame the car, not the product you're selling. But we'll see what happens. This glass pack, I was just going to put a straight pipe in, but I didn't have anything long enough, and in order to get this kind of length, you actually have to buy like 3 sections of little 18-inch things. And I got this off of Black Saturn over there, and it's pretty good shape. You know, some kind of stainless steel. You know, it eventually does rust away, but you know, it lasts a really long time. And I made this flange to put in here, and then I'm going to weld this to this, and then that can slide in here. I'll put a clamp on it, just be one clamp. The muffler itself, I need to go get a tube of silicone, like high temperature. It's the only bad spot on it right here. Probably just clean this up with a wire brush. Pack some silicone down there. I think I can get a couple more years out of that muffler. But, so, that's where we are with that. I'm kind of interested after I get all this in there. I should not have any engine lights. So, here's the new gas gauge, fresh from China, and actually that right there is AC Delco, this purge solenoid. It even has the original plug. So a lot of people are getting these and they give them like a little adapter plug. And it looks like I need to pull the pins out of here to get the gas gauge changed. I hate changing gas gauges because they're easy to damage just putting them in. And getting this gas tank out was pretty easy. I just removed the straps in the front and it kind of slid down out. I did have to take off, you know, the fill tube. There was only one tube that hooked to it besides there was a vacuum line one and a pressure one. It kind of just snapped on. Nothing too rusty to remove and put back on. So I'll get started on this. Alright, so we got the new gas gauge on. Here's what it looks like. Here's what it looks like. The old one looks like. And to get the pretty much you unplug this, and then there's like a little spade thing about this long. You pull that out, and then there's little sprags in there, and you pull back the sprags. I used like a utility knife to kind of get down in there and open the sprags, and you can pull the wire down out. And I don't think it really matters, but I did make sure that, you know, the wires coming off is in the same hole that it came out of. I don't think it matters. I think it's just a matter of measuring resistance. So, but I just made sure just in case. There is, you know, two different things going on here. Two different potentiometers, it looks like. So I don't know. Got the new purge solenoid on there, and I get this guy down in there. We can put it back together. I thought I'd show you guys something that's kind of interesting before I go and put this back up in. But you know how like you have a map sensor on your engine that measures the vacuum of the engine, and here's one. It's almost identical to it, but it's kind of the same thing. It just measures the vacuum of the fuel tank, and this is probably what throws the light whenever you do not have a gas cap on, because there's never a negative or positive situation in the gas tank, and this thing here would be able to tell. Alright, I got the gas tank back in, and put 2 gallons of gas in it. Oh, came up a little bit. Looks like the gas gauge is actually going to work. I'll put a couple more gallon in it, see what happens. So I think I'm going to run up to the store real quick and get some, that silicone. Get that on here. Probably wire brush this a little bit. So that way it has time to dry while I weld this on here and weld my homemade flange, and then maybe by the time I get all that welding done, get this thing installed, silicone will be dry. I added like 2 more gallons of gas to that gas tank, and the gauge went up to like 1/4 of a tank, so it's looking like that's working. After I get it all running and everything, I can look at the live data on the meter and see what we got. And yep, I go to the store. Some more money to buy off of this thing. Alright, so we got the Red Death seal on there, and got the fitting welded on there, and I got the flange welded on. Flange, it welded really nice. The cheap $6 fitting thing that I paid for, that thing is soft. I mean, it just kept wanting to burn through. I gotta put a little bit right there. That'll end up being a pinhole that leaks. But man, that thing just kept wanting to just disintegrate to nothing. But it's kind of interesting to see this exhaust system all laid out. It's like forever long. But oh, get it up in there and see what we got. Alright, we got it all back together. It's been running for about 5 minutes. And now we'll check the monitors on this. See, don't have a misfire. Catalyst monitor incomplete. Evap system monitor incomplete. Pretty much you have to run these things for a while. The evap thing, I drove this thing 15 miles, it still said incomplete when I did a little jury rig. Pretty much I put a relay, like out of your relay box, on the terminals to the purge solenoid, and it seemed to be happy with it, but it was incomplete. So it's could possible that would have figured out, that pressures in the tank wasn't right. But a lot of times you gotta drive these things a good ways in order to get all this stuff to check out. I don't have an engine light right now, so that's good, pretty good. I'm gonna call it fixed unless I see another engine light, but if that catalyst is good, you know, big enough to do the job and not have a, you know, any issues with that, then I think we'll be good. Take this thing out the road, see how it takes off. Alright, we're gonna do a takeoff of this thing. I'm gonna floor it. For you kilometers guys, the speedometer might go up a little slow because this is mile per hour. So I think she's fixed. Runs a lot better, and the gas gauge works. But, I guess I'll catch you guys later.